Welcome, everybody, to our June 23rd regular ANC meeting. I am Bruce Sherman. We are in regular session tonight, awaiting our chair, Lisa Gore, to sign on. I'm the vice chair, and in her absence, I will start the meeting, calling it to order as I've just done, and we'll begin with commissioner introductions. So if I go around the horn, I want to start with Liz Nagy.
Hi, good evening. I'm Liz Nagy. I'm the commissioner for SMD 07, which runs south from the middle of Military South to the north middle of Chevy Chase Parkway and the middle of Reno on the west side and the middle of Nevada on the east side. Sort of an upside down Hershey's Kiss.
Great, thank you, Peter
Thanks
Gossman.
for coming.
Peter.
Yeah, I'm Peter Gosselin. I'm the commissioner for District 6, which is largely the west side of Connecticut between Western and Military back to 42nd Street with the Peninsula of the East. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Fennessy.
Hello, I am Laura Finnessy. I am Commissioner for Single Member District 4, roughly between Utah Avenue on the east and Broad Branch Road on the west, between Western Avenue and McKinley, including Lafayette Elementary School and Lafayette Pointer Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Commissioner Simmons, I have Single Member District 05, which is the east side of Connecticut, back to Broad Branch between Legation and Western. My single member district includes the library and community center. Hello to everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Grunwald.
Yes, hi, my name is Carol Grunwald. I'm the ANC Commissioner for Single Member District 03, and the boundaries of my district are Utah Avenue to the northeast, 27th Street to the east, Broad Branch to the south and to the west, McKinley on the north, and then it jogs north and east along Nebraska, where it rejoins Utah Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce,
Yes.
Lisa says is waiting for host. I don't know if you see her there to admit her in.
Yeah, let me just make sure that I've admitted her because I think I might have needed to do that. And so just a little housekeeping as we try to log Lisa in. I don't see her in the queue. Presumably, I would see her as separately registered. Let's just wait another second so that I can see her appear in the roster of participants, where she should appear. And while we're waiting for that,
She said she's waiting.
I just saw her just now, so I just admitted her. She should be coming in. Commissioner Gore, she's joining. While she's joining, I'll just introduce myself quickly. I'm Bruce Sherman again. I'm the commissioner in District 02, which is the territory bordered by Military on the south, Oregon on the east, Utah on the west, and Tennyson on the north, but my district does extend up to the Chatsworth, Unicorn Lane, and Oregon Knolls areas north of that. And Commissioner Gore is joining, so the indication says, in real time. Let's, while we're waiting for her to come on, I'll go ahead and move that we adopt the agenda. If we have any amendments, let me ask if we have any amendments to any changes to the agenda.
I hate to speak for Lisa, but I believe that she wants to postpone a debate over the resolution condemning recent violent attacks on Minnesota lawmakers until such time as OANC or OAG or somebody rules. Now, ideally, she would be on to speak for herself, but if we're going to vote on the agenda, I think that's something she wants removed.
Very good. I hear that. She is joining. I've admitted her. And I'm not quite sure what the holdup is in having her come on.
Okay.
But in any event,
Please,
Commissioner Gore, if you are there now, please join. There you are. Welcome.
I'm sorry, folks. I had to go out to my car. So this will be a first, but something's going on with the Wi-Fi in the house. So sorry for the delay.
So let me just hand
Um,
it off to you then, Commissioner Gore. We just did commissioner introductions. We are looking at the agenda, and I asked if there are any amendments or changes to the agenda. And Commissioner
okay.
Gosselin mentioned that you might prefer to defer consideration of the resolution about democratic principles and so forth, but you can speak to that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So again, my apologies. I'm out of town and the Wi-Fi is just all of a sudden went out. So I will try to intermittently go back and see if it's working. But in terms of that resolution, yeah, I want to take that off the agenda. We're waiting on the OAG opinion. I think it's best to bring it back up once we get that opinion.
And I was suggesting, would suggest that I'm happy to address it if the commissioners wish to. This concerns the renewal of the alcohol license for the Knollwood retirement community. As I had mentioned to everyone via email, the Alcohol Beverage and Cannabis Administration has already granted the renewal, indicating no action from us is required unless there is community concern or a protest. I've checked with Knollwood, there is none. But I'm happy to consider that if we want to take up time for it, or we can amend the agenda to drop it.
So I really do not favor taking any application or renewal off the agenda. That's one of the very few things statutorily we have to offer comment to. I have questions. I'm sure everything is going fine, but any renewal application, I want to know some very, very basic information. And we're talking about a 3-5 minute issue, but I've had a couple comments from community members where our comment periods aren't showing up on the agenda, and one in particular has caused a lot of consternation. So I think even though we haven't heard anything, it's not just an opportunity for us to say something, it's also an opportunity for the community to be heard. And doing that in the meeting is one opportunity for them to do that. I just don't think this is so, we're talking 5 minutes here.
Okay, that's fine. We can keep it.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? I know there was some Mary Rouse floated an email. Some good points definitely in there. I don't know if I want to take them up now. With this agenda, I've already sent out the times for people, and I know people are showing up at their time. So, and just a broader discussion to that. It definitely is broader than the email written. So if we need to discuss that, maybe that's something we could just, shoot around in either an admin meeting or, offline with ourselves. But I would, go with what we have structured for tonight.
Just one quick comment on that. I would just recall that we, as a commission ourselves, irrespective of community comment, had resolved some time ago to prioritize community issues to the extent we could first. So it's harking back to something the commission itself has identified.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But part of that discussion, I don't want to like get into it now,
Right.
is we have to we have to make time for items, and we're losing that. So I think, just a broader discussion and a broader commitment from the ANC to tighten things up all around is a need be.
Okay, and I think if I could just say, I think that Lisa, what you're talking about from the Mary Rouse note, and Bruce, what you're talking about from the Mary Rouse note are two separate things. At the bottom of the Rouse note was a proposed resolution, and I think that is what Lisa is addressing. But I think we all agree on the general notion of taking up local issues first. And so I don't think.
Yeah, no, I wasn't addressing her. I was I wasn't talking about that proposed resolution. I'm not, I'm not going to take that up tonight, but I was just saying in general, we have to, I think as a commission, reapproach our agenda in general.
Okay, okay. Given we want to save time, let's just get to the vote.
Any more changes to agenda, commissioners? Okay. I move that we accept the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioners, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, and can you remind me, Bruce, do we have, first of all, a quorum, and are there 7 commissioners on the line?
Yes.
Okay, so 7-0-0. Okay. And since I'm only working off my iPhone and I do not have the agenda because I can't get my computer up, Commissioner Nagy, can you call the next item on the agenda, please?
Sure. The grant application there's a presentation by Chas Cadwell, historic Chevy Chase DC.
Okay.
Don't we want to adopt
Jocelyn
minutes?
is leading that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Whoops, excuse me. So
Yep.
sorry. And we didn't do meeting procedures, but do we need to?
Be polite.
I guess we know. Resident forum, please.
Well, hold it. Don't we want to vote on the minutes? I mean, I think that's what Lisa was referring to. That's the next.
Is that what you were talking about? Yep, sorry, we do. Oh, God, excuse
Okay.
me. Because you're in your car. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, I make a motion to adopt the minutes from the June 9th meeting with leave to make technical amendments.
I second.
Thank you, Peter.
Commissioners, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any
7-0.
opposed? No abstention, 7-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Lisa, given this situation, do you want Bruce to basically call the next issue on the agenda?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah, until I can get my computer up. That would
Yeah.
be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item after the adoption of minutes is the ANC 34G resident forum. Which is, I may just say quickly, Commissioner Gore, this is an opportunity for members of the public to say, make comments, ask questions about issues that are not otherwise on the agenda. So if there are committee members who would like to make comments, please raise your hand and you'll be acknowledged. Any community members who would like to speak? Brian Houten. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner Sherman. I just wanted to point out that there's kind of an urgent question about traffic modification at Utah and Nebraska, where about 70 truncheons have been installed across from the City Bikes location at the new Murray school. And the main question I would have is when school restarts in the fall, you're going to have very long traffic jams at that intersection. And I just wondered if anyone had any information about why it was done.
So Commissioner Fennessy and I can take turns on this. Brian, the issue it sort of straddles our 2 districts. We have already engaged the District Department of Transportation on this matter. We've already alerted them to the concerns, conveyed the neighbors' interests and complaints, frankly, about those. For community members here who are not familiar with this, the 30-second version is that several years ago, when the Murray Fields project was being discussed with the ANC and then with the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the District Department of Transportation came into the equation to address what were anticipated to be traffic issues, parking issues associated with the field complex. And while parking is not permitted within 40 feet of an intersection by parking regulations as they already exist, there was a concern that on game days when the spectator number would go fairly high, people might be tempted to park so close to the intersection as to block the line of sight or the daylight at the intersection. So the DDOT decided, and this was part of the agreement with the Board of Zoning Adjustment and with Murray School, to install these flexi posts, they're called, to prevent people from parking near the intersection. That's why they're there. But now that they're there and we can see them and we can take neighbor concerns, as I said, Commissioner Fennessy and I have already engaged the Department of Transportation on this, and they're looking into it. And we will be taking public comment on this, Brian, and addressing it. We're already addressing it, and we'll continue to address it. Commissioner Fennessy, anything that you'd like to add to that?
Sure. No, I got a call yesterday. I think it was yesterday. A lot of happening recently, from a constituent because it was going on in real time. We have, the concerns basically include some possible loss of parking, but also the ability of the WMATA buses to turn because one of the stanchion sets goes about 18 feet out into the street. Also concerns about snow removal because in some cases, well, actually in the cases, the crosswalks may have stanchions on both sides. So there's no way for a snow plow to come plow right there. And also traffic backups. So for me, I was not on the ANC when this plan was worked out with DDOT in 2023. So I had to get up to speed kind of quickly. But like Commissioner Sherman said, we're working with DDOT. They've been clear on what the plan said. They installed the stanchions as they were planned, but I don't think they're unwilling to discuss and work with us.
Just Commissioner Gosselin.
Just to say, I think given that this is supposed to be for residents to comment, I think you both commissioners have demonstrated that we're on this one. I'm going to walk up tomorrow and take a look at them, so I'm better informed. And can't we, if we need to take this up and take some formal action, can't we do that at the next meeting so we can get on with the resident comments?
Sure.
Is it reasonable?
Sure.
Oh, can I just add one comment or question? I know, Laura, you mentioned that there were concerns with parking, but I just want to confirm where those posts are. They're in places where parking isn't allowed, correct? And I rode past yesterday. I saw it when I rode past, but just wanted to confirm that's true.
It seems to be, but you had like de facto parking in front of houses before where the curb cut, where the sidewalk, from the extends out to the curb. And so, like, for example, I've got one 60-year-old constituent who can't unload her groceries from her car except stepping through the grass. So if the stanchions stay where they are, then we might be looking at moving the concrete, for example, but she's not comfortable stepping off into the grass whereas before she could unload right onto the step sidewalk. You know what I'm saying? So there's some things we will have to work through that, sometimes these issues don't always seem obvious until you see them in 3D life,
Brian, did those comments address your concern for now?
Certainly did. Yeah, I'm just glad to hear you're on it.
Okay, fantastic. Rachel Feichter and then Mary Callahan. Rachel, go ahead. Rachel, if you can hear us, you're on. You have your hand raised. We'll come back, Rachel. Mary Callahan, you had your hand raised before. Would you like to speak? All right. Unless I'm going deaf, neither Rachel nor Mary is able to join us. So we'll press on. Anyone else care to join us during the community comment period and open forum?
So Mary says no, but Rachel was asking if we could hear her. And Rachel, you might have been talking, but we can't hear you. So it might have been something with your sound.
Yeah.
But if you get that fixed, we'll come back to you.
Right. Okay. Rachel put in the chat box.
Yeah, you see her chat.
parking in the handicap sections in front of Lafayette School is a daily problem.
Are you seeing this? I know I worked on it this spring. This is, and I talked to the police officers and they were going to have some enforcement, and I went out there some days as well myself. Is that something that we need to address in the summer? Is this an issue that we can try to sort out over the summer? Or are we having summer programs at the school? I see yes and yes, but if you can, Rachel, if you can maybe put in some specific times that we need to look at, especially for the summer, that would be helpful. Otherwise, at school, it was in particularly acute in the drop-off pickup, and then also pickup for for CLS. Okay, well, I'm seeing 24/7 all day. Okay.
Okay, great. Do we have any other community comments? Hearing none, let's proceed with the next agenda item, which happens to be updates from the mayors and council member staff. Kendall Gibson, are you on? Or Owen? I think
I saw Owen's name on there.
Owen's on, right. So either Kendall or Owen, come on and give us your update.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. My name is William Owen Cox. I'm the Ward 3 liaison for the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. I don't have any specific updates other than Kendall's office hours, which were previously last week on Friday, got postponed to this week. So they will be at the Cleveland Park Library. Let me just double check the timing just to make sure I have it. Or sorry, I didn't mean Cleveland Park. I meant the Chevy Chase Library from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. So that's it for me, but I'm available if anyone has questions.
What was the date again on that, William?
So that will be Friday, June 27th from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Chevy Chase Library.
Okay.
And I would just like to thank
Yeah.
Owen and Kendall for the amazing responsiveness of the MOCR and the mayor's office with all the help with the storm, with the damage, with the calls, with everything. You guys have been amazing, and I'm sure you're exhausted, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very appreciated. And thank all of you for staying in touch with us and flagging stuff for us. Even though we would like to, we can't always be everywhere at once. So you guys are a huge help for letting us know problems that we can come in and help out to fix. Thank you.
Great. I add my thanks as well, Owen, to you and Kendall. It's
And
great
mine.
job. Commissioner Nagy.
So I want to add my thanks. One of my constituents had a tree fall on, well, actually three of them, because it's a small condo, had a tree fall on their house, and Owen and Kendall were amazing and able to get that tree off by the next morning. So thank you. And never mind all the other stuff that you were dealing with at the same time, 160 down trees. Thanks so much.
Very much appreciated. Thank you all.
Welcome.
Do we have representatives from the council members' offices? If so, please activate your video. Come on, give us an update.
Or Ward 4 MOCRs. They're usually not here. Usually
Right.
Ward 3 covered. But in case they are.
In case they are, right. I don't
see them.
I don't either. Okay, then let us, if they come back, of course, we can work them in. Proceeding with the agenda. It is that discussion of the renewal of the liquor license at Knollwood. So that's on me. Let me again just recap what I said earlier, and that is that Knollwood applied for its liquor license renewal. The Alcohol, Beverage, and Cannabis Administration granted the renewal. The process works like this, that once they do that, it's provisional. The ABCA notifies an ANC to take any community comments, particularly if there's a concern in the community. And in this particular case, this is about Knollwood's own internal liquor license, and Knollwood as a retirement community is not public facing. There's no external consumption, sale of alcohol. It's all internal to Knollwood. And so my conversation with ABCA today was about the application and with Knollwood and the Knollwoods Residents Association, and they all seem to be in alignment. And therefore, I have heard no concerns. I particularly want to stress that I liaise regularly with the Knollwood Residents Association, those who are consuming the alcohol. They are the constituents, they are the audience, and no issues or no concerns from them. So anyway, I'm with no action required to the ANC. I'm opening this up then for comments by commissioners or questions that might come from the community. Yeah, Peter.
Just a quick question. I don't remember being notified. We're notified of all renewals. I mean, I have a lot of restaurants and bars on my side of Connecticut Avenue. We get all those renewal notices. Did we get notified of this?
Yeah, we did. We did.
Yeah. And it traditionally comes to the 3G box and the commissioner of record. And I've seen some with all of us, sometimes, most of the time not. So I can't remember. And usually usually the single member district commissioner responds, I might respond with a thank you. So the entire commission might not have been on this one. But we did get a response and we responded, an acknowledgement to that. My question, Bruce, so what are their hours and so is this renewal every 3 years? Do you know the renewal time frame? And one of the things I wanted to know, because sometimes our renewals have contingencies attached. Do you know if there was anything attached to the previous renewal?
Nothing that I'm aware of. I asked if there were any issues, any concerns, and none. In fact, to be honest with you, they were Knollwood, speaking of Knollwood, not surprised, but they simply took note of the fact that ANC action, they didn't oppose anything that we might do. They simply acknowledged that the renewal had already been granted. Therefore, they looked at it as a kind of a matter of course, kind of a routine issue. But no contingencies that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
other commissioners, are we good with this? Again, there's no action required of us. All right. Okay. Moving on then on the agenda. We are discussing discussion and vote
The
on
grant
the
application.
Go ahead, Commissioner Gore.
Yep. Okay. So I made my son go out and bring me my computer.
Okay.
So I can
All right.
pull
Good.
up
You
the
got it.
agenda. Thank goodness, he's such a good kid. But so the next item, as Commissioner Sherman indicated, is the discussion and possible vote on the Ward 3, Ward 4 Democrat community event at Lafayette Pointer Park. And I believe I saw on the line Deidre Brown, who's representing Ward 3 Democrats, in case commissioners have any questions or community members. So just as a recap, typically with our grant applications, we discuss them one meeting and vote on them the other meeting. And Deidre went over what the grant application is for. It's for a community event that is being sponsored by Ward 4 and Ward 3 Dems. We ran this prior to even getting the commissioners involved by the Office of ANC's General Counsel, Denise Wichter, who's had quite a few rounds of emails to make sure she understands the application and the event. So OANC General Counsel did approve it and say that it was okay for us to make that grant. And the reason being is because it's not based on an organization. They key in on the type of event and if the event is non-political, or apolitical, which this is. So I will suggest, and I know there is a couple questions that came through over email last night and this afternoon. Commissioners, if you have any questions further of Deidre, to raise them now, and then we can do a vote. Commissioner Gosselin?
Well, as I said when we discussed this last time, I don't see how party ward committee can do a non-political event. I understand that this has been cleared by OANC. I understand Deidre's argument. I am willing to compromise. Mary Rouse suggested a compromise, which was that we give a sort of token amount of $500 as a grant. I'm willing to vote for that. Otherwise, if we go with the full amount, I personally will be voting against it.
Commissioner Fennessy?
Yeah, I had a question. Let me just get the page here of the grant. There was a part about utilizing Mobilize, which I guess is a registration software. Is it like Eventbrite or one of those type things? I don't know Mobilize, and ask people to pre-register with name, email address, and ward. I was wondering if we had registration perhaps either through the ANC or you didn't retain that information, if you didn't collect specific information like that, I would feel maybe more comfortable with that, either if they register through the ANC, but not in a way that that data could be then retained by someone else.
Or was that a question? Oh, so I'm not sure how Ward 4 does their meetings, but Ward 3, every month we post on Mobilize as a way to advertise. Sometimes people register, sometimes they don't. We have a large number of Ward 3 people in our MailChimp database already. We will not be checking people at the door for registration. The main purpose of that is to advertise the event, because that does go out citywide, as well as to gauge, we kind of want to gauge how many people from each of the wards ended up coming. And that's why we wanted to ask the ward question. Once again, is at a park, so it's a picnic. So there's no check-in, no registration, no tickets. Whoever shows up for the event. We do want to try and get a little bit of a head count as well, because we will be offering food and beverage free of charge, and we got to have an estimate of how many people we think or estimate may show up on that day.
Do you think there's another way to get the head count? I think the head count would certainly be important for party planning, make sure you have enough.
Only things I know of is either Mobilize or Eventbrite. Ward 3 Democrats does not have an Eventbrite website. Account. We could make an account, but like I said, we normally just organize our meetings through Mobilize.
But that would still go back to the Ward 3 Democrats as opposed to going back to the ANC or not being collected at all. I just wonder if there's a way to get a head count without identifying information. Yeah, yeah.
Lisa.
Commissioner Nagy?
Thank you. I guess I have a couple of issues with this. One of them is collecting emails, just in general. I understand you want to know who came from Ward 3 and who comes from Ward 4, but I think that really highlights for me that it is more political than one might think. And I read your email, and thank you. I just don't see how this can really be apolitical. It's sort of like saying the DNC sponsored a party, and how can that not be political? But by which I mean the Democratic National Party, National Committee. So that's part of it. Some people have raised the suggestion, that Republicans should be invited. Then I get to, so what about the Green Party, or what about independents and stuff like that? Once that sort of highlights for me the political nature of the underlying political nature of this event. And frankly, for me, the amount of the grant doesn't really make a difference. It's either appropriate or it's not. And I wouldn't be able to support it even if it was much less money. So I understand where you're coming from, and I think it, I hope it'll be a great event. Also, you've built it as an outreach event. So again, it underlines that you're trying to get Ward 3 Democrats to come to this, in my mind. That may not be how you view it, but that is how I view it.
Yeah, so in the application, we did put in the marketing, the section that the commissioner right before you was mentioning, several of the other things we put in there is to advertise on all the listservs, to, once again, we already have a mailing list. I'm assuming Ward 4 has a mailing list about the extra chair. And to the DC, other organizations will also be publicizing this, as well as some of our sponsors. So everyone is welcome. Like I said before, it's not a situation where we're going to be carting people at the door, seeing if they're registered as a Democrat or not. Anyone who shows up will be welcome, and we'll try and have enough food and beverage to accommodate everyone. I don't know of a way to get a real head count without actually using one of the online platforms. If someone has a suggestion, like I said, we already just use Mobilize, so that's why I said Mobilize, but we're not wedded to that. But we do need to try and get a rough head count because this is the first year we've ever done it, and I just don't really know how many people may show up.
Deidre, it's Bruce Sherman. A couple of questions from me. Absent our support, what would be the prospects to host this event?
Yes, so we, in the application, I listed a few, we have a couple of council members, obviously, who have indicated that they may give from their constituency funds. And so this whole thing will be underwritten by sponsors. And then we have a few vendors who will either donate or give at a low cost some of the things that we need. For example, we're reaching out to Safeway and Giant to see if they'll donate water and beverages and ice and that kind of stuff.
And second question, the Eventbrite sign up has an email address attached to it. Is there a way of making clear that those email addresses are not to be captured for political purposes?
Yeah, so we can make it so so the thing is when someone signs up with Eventbrite or Mobilize, it does not dump into our MailChimp. If I want those people to get into MailChimp, I actually have to download it and then export it into MailChimp, right? So it's already kept separate. If you want to say that we should put a disclaimer saying that we will not be using this for future marketing, that's fine. Because once again, this is really about us trying to figure out head count. And I personally, because I'm a data person, would like to kind of get a feel of how many came from 3 and how many came from 4, just anecdotally. Not that it really matters that much. But so I don't have a problem with that. If you want to say, if you use Mobilize or Eventbrite, you cannot, then dump their email addresses into your database, and you need to make it clear that it won't be used for future contact.
Right. So the tension for me lies between wanting to support community engagement, which is the purpose of your grant application, and not conveying by virtue of our support that we're endorsing a political effort.
Correct.
So that's kind of where I am. I'm kind of in the middle on that. I don't know if other commissioners have any concerns they wish to express.
Commissioner Gosselin?
You're muted.
You're on mute.
Am I on mute now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I wonder, given the concerns that we've heard from Laura, Liz, Bruce, whether there's a willingness, for example, Lisa, on your part, to go with the 500. You'll get a vote from me with 500, just because I'm trying to cut between these poles of not being a spoil sport and trying to
Sure. I mean, yeah, I don't know if the monetary amount is, the real issue here. But obviously we haven't set an amount that we're willing to vote on. So $500 would be okay with me. I might add that I've used Mobilize and the softwares that, Deidre is talking about in several of my campaigns. And it is an absolute must when you're planning an event of this size. So I appreciate Deidre's willingness to add the disclaimer, because if you go in and you create your event, and this is what I was saying to Laura's comment about the ANC having access to this information, there's a lot of legalities that you have to, and actually some of it, depending on how you're sending out and requesting information, there's certain federal legalities that you have to abide by when you're requesting that information. So if she's willing to put a disclaimer in there, which she can easily do when you create the event, that would satisfy hopefully it would satisfy everybody else's. I'm in favor of it, and like I said with the last one, if another group came to us with a nonpartisan event, I would support a grant application from them as well. And I'm on both. No, I think I'm on Ward 4 Dim's list. They already got my information. I mean, most people that are going to this event, they already got your information. So it's the people that are on the list. That's how they're also going to be notified, through Mobilize. They're going to send it, to a blast of folks that they already have their information. So I'm just not personally as concerned with that, because I think I've had good experience with it, so I know that there's restrictions built into it. Let me go to Commissioner Grunwald. She hasn't spoken.
Yes, yes. Hi. So my feeling is I don't think it's a good idea for us to make a practice of supporting what I view as a partisan event. I mean, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but by virtue of the fact that the Democratic Party's name is all over this, makes it partisan to me. And there are other parties in this town. There's the Republican Party. There's the Statehood Green Party. Um, I just don't think it's a good practice. So I would be opposed to contributing. I'm sorry.
Well, with that, commissioners, I'm going to call for the vote. And let's just let the vote lay where it is. But I move that we support the Ward 3, Ward 4 Democratic grant applications for the event at Lafayette Park, with a grant from the ANC in the amount of $500, and a stipulation in the registration that they create a disclaimer that says that collected information will not be distributed to either organization and will only be used for purposes of understanding the amount of people registered for the event. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I'm gonna do a roll call just since I'm in the car, just to make sure I get everybody. And I'll just go in order of how I see you on my screen. Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Gosselin,
Yes.
Nagy,
No.
Fennessy,
Yes.
and then Grunwald,
No.
Simmons,
Abstain.
and Gore is a yes. So the motion carries 4 yes, 2 no's, and 1 abstention. All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Deidre.
Commissioner.
We'll be in touch. Yes. And thank you, commissioners, for the discussion and your honest feedback on this. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So next up on the agenda, Goss
Yep. So
or historic Chevy Chas Cadwell.
Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up a little, Lisa.
I had to turn off my car. Okay. I'm sorry. Did that come out clear? You're up next with the grant
Yeah, I
application.
got it. I got it. And I want
Okay.
to find out. Let's see. Chas Cadwell from historic Chevy Chase DC, and is Brian, and Brian is here. Brian Coombs. Brian, if both of you would raise your hand, whoever is running the show here can elevate you and put you on screen. This is a sort of joint project of historic Chevy Chase DC with Brian Coombs, whose family has lived for a very long time in Chevy Chase, whose father was a longtime janitor at Lafayette Elementary School and well known and a figure in the community, who passed recently with his wife, and his son, Brian, who is the manager of the UPS store on Upper Connecticut Avenue, is seeking help to fund an additional bench in front of the Avalon Theater to add to the other benches that historic Chevy Chase DC put in as a project, I think 10 years ago. Chas could speak to that. Chas, do you want to introduce it and then introduce Brian, who I don't see? Did he get elevated or not?
I don't believe so yet. He's here, but let me start while Brian turns on his camera and his microphone. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Chas Cadwell. I'm currently the treasurer of historic Chevy Chase DC, and will be joined by Brian Combs, who brought this idea to us several months ago. As Peter suggests, Brian grew up in Chevy Chase and now manages the UPS store that we all go to. And since I've been talking to people about this project, I've been shocked at how many people who either went to Lafayette School or worked at Lafayette School hear about it and say, "What a cool idea. I loved Kenny." And the Lafayette Life book was a book about Lafayette School published in 1990, features Kenny Combs on, I forget the page number, but it's a full page profile that talks to his incredibly loyal service to Lafayette over his entire career, from age 19 till he died in 1998, and died in 2025, rather. I'm sorry, he retired in 1998. As you know, the benches along Connecticut Avenue have become a much used fixture. They're actually 30 years old, put in between 1995 and 2001. And they're in great shape. There's like zero maintenance required once these are installed. But if you walk up there are people sitting there waiting for somebody to come to a meeting or rest while they're shopping, or on a day like today, sitting in the shade. Or simply watching people walk up and down our Chevy Chase Main Street. Compared to the east side of the avenue, these benches, along with the trees and the tree boxes, bring life to an otherwise barren concrete sidewalk. You have our application, but briefly, the HCC DC board unanimously supported the application you have in front of you. We propose to purchase and install a bench nearly identical to the existing benches made by the same company at a spot in front of the Avalon Theater that for some reason has a tree and a tree box, but doesn't have a bench adjacent to the one that's there in the avenue. This one bench, of course, doesn't by itself transform the avenue, but it certainly contributes to the valued beautification of our streetscape. We have two challenges, though. Unlike 1995, we need to get a public space permit from the Department of Transportation, and the cost of the benches has gone up dramatically. I think since I'm treasurer, I have access to the old records, and I think the benches cost $875 in the 1990s. Today they are $3,800. And so that with installation and the cost of a public space permit, the budget we've put together is $4,850. So our request for you is to support, first of all, the application for a public space permit that we will do if you approve this grant or if you approve the support. And then second, for a grant to cover about 40% of the cost, or about $2,000. So Brian and I are both happy to answer any questions you may have. But before I do that, I'd like to ask Brian if he can say a few words about his dad's time at Lafayette and his family's connection to Chevy Chase DC. Brian, are you on yet?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just first I want to thank everybody for like considering this and this project is something that, really means a lot to me and my family. My dad worked at Lafayette School from 1963 and he worked there for 35 years and was a custodian there, but touched the lives of, many families there and, helped out a lot of kids and teachers on a daily basis and was, a good part of the community and, felt like always taught me to, have time for everybody in the community and see if I could help out. And I was very able to have a lot of life lessons from him that, taught me to be a good person, be a hard worker, be dedicated. And those were things he always was. And, him and my mom lived in Chevy Chase from 1970 until they passed and were always a big part of the community. And, I thought because they always, in their retirement years, they always enjoyed sitting on the benches and, speaking to people and just enjoying the weather and everything. I just figured what better way to, honor them than to try to do something like that. And it just seemed like the best way possible. And that way, their memory could be part of Connecticut Avenue forever. So.
And I just add before we take questions, a question was raised on the listserv about where else the bench could go. I walked up there this afternoon and I can report the following to you. Between Livingston and essentially the circle, there are only 6 tree boxes where there are not benches, and only 2 of those are even plausible for a bench because the other 4 are choke points in the sidewalk where we have restaurants that we very much want to keep. We do not want to see their outside space taken away. The Parthenon, Opal, Bread and Chocolate, now Skips. Those areas are those 4 tree boxes which do not have benches now. The space between the cafe style seating outside and the tree box is too narrow to put benches. So there are only 2 places in front of Magruder's in the M&T Bank building and the Avalon. And I must say, of all the places not to have a bench, I mean, on days that are not quite as hot as this, when there are movies in the evening, people go to the ice cream place next door and then wait for the movie outside. It seems like a perfect place. And I'd also just say that it's right near Brian's, where Brian works at the UPS store. I think this is something that absolutely fits with our mandate to beautify and improve the community and do it in a community fashion. So I hope that we can win the support both for the public space committee application and for the grant from all of you. And with that, I'd open the floor for questions.
Peter, if I could interrupt before you start that, I will note that the Avalon Theater has supported this effort.
Okay.
So.
Right. Laura.
Yeah, hi. There's a question from Mary Callahan in the chat, and it asked, is the Chevy Chase Historical Society also collecting donations from the community for this bench?
Yeah, first of all, it's Historic Chevy Chase DC. The Chevy Chase Historical Society is a group in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
I'm just reading the chat. Okay,
yeah,
but thank you.
I understand.
Okay.
I wasn't correcting you. I was for the benefit of everybody. We have collected some funds already, and we can continue to. The speed with which we can implement the project depends on having first of all having the public space permit, but then also having the requisite funds. So the $2,000 over the 30-year life of these benches, which is how old the existing benches are that look frankly brand new, is $66 a year. So it seemed like a modest amount to invest in infrastructure along Connecticut Avenue if the commission is willing to support it.
But just to clarify, Chas, I mean, money will over and above the 2,000 that I hope we contribute. You've got to
Yes, no, we've raised about $1,800 so far, and so there's whatever that balance is remains to be seen, and we've got pledges from some people, but it's because the original benches, 14 of the benches along the avenue were done in memory of a family member and presumably paid for by that family and friends. 6 of the others were done by an organization like HCC DC or the Chevy Chase then Citizens Association. And 2 others were supported by local businesses, Chevy Chase Liquor, and I forget the other business no longer with us.
Okay. I'm having some questions in the chat. How would people donate?
It donates to historic Chevy Chase DC, and you can designate its use. But we welcome that. But frankly, I don't want to accept money cash until we have the public space permit. Because if we don't have the public space permit, we're not going to spend people's money on something else.
Well, now I need to clarify something. Carol, just wait one second. Somebody has put in the chat a GoFundMe, honor Kenneth and Carolyn Coombs, that says $2,500 has already been raised. Is that in conjunction with historic?
No, this is something that Brian started this as he was starting to talk to me. So I'm corrected. We have $2,595 in hand already.
Okay.
And so in the grant application where I named existing supporters, it included some of these people.
Okay. Carol.
Yeah, I had just wanted to point out in the chat that Elizabeth McPike and Mary Callahan would also like to contribute to this project in honor of your parents. So I think that's just lovely.
That's great. No, we appreciate it all.
And Corinthia?
Thanks. I keep getting passed over. But I just want to know, when you guys do the bench, do you intend to have a unveiling ceremony or anything?
Of course. You'll all be invited. It takes about once we have I think in the application I put together a calendar. It takes about 10 weeks to produce the bench once we order it, and we won't order it until we have the public space permit in hand. And then so it would be mid-September at the very earliest that we could do anything. And so if we're successful in getting the space permit, raising the requisite funds, and ordering the bench, it'd be a mid-fall event.
Chevy Chase Day.
I wish we could do it that quickly. That's mid-September.
All right.
Peter, if I could, just a couple of quick comments. First of all, Chas, thank you for presenting this, and Brian, thank you, and thank you for your father's service and your family's commitment to Chevy Chase. I commend you for the GoFundMe effort. Recently, one of my constituents, a young man who finished his Eagle project, funded his Eagle project with the equivalent of a GoFundMe campaign. It proved very successful, raised around $1,800 for that project. I am happy, I commend it, and I'm happy to make a donation myself, but also to promote this to my constituents via my newsletter to try to encourage people to donate. In other words, there's support that the ANC can lend to this effort beyond a grant that we might make, and so I'm offering that support as well.
That's great.
Thank you.
Liz?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a couple of questions. How much money do we have available for grants as an ANC?
$2,000 is our limit.
No, total? I mean, how much money, the fund, how much is in the
Oh,
fund?
you mean in our budget?
Okay, so it would just be part of our budget. There's not a separate
That's right.
Right.
item for, okay.
Right.
So it's the ANC's yearly allocation eventually. Okay, and has the ANC ever supported financially a bench before?
Chas, going back.
I don't believe so. I went through the old checkbooks. There's a big thick stack of them going back to this period. Um, and there was income from various family groups and others, but I don't believe from the ANC at the time. I won't swear to that, but I think that's the case.
Okay, and lastly, if the ANC were to make a grant, excuse me, of $2,000 and you collect more money in the GoFundMe and through donations from community members, and you have more money than you need, what happens to that money?
Well, that's excellent question. We could agree with you to either give money back to individual contributors or to reduce the amount of the grant that we actually ask you to distribute.
So, sorry, if I could just follow up for a moment.
Of course.
I'm unfamiliar with this sort of appropriations kind of territory for ANCs, but does anyone know, could we take money back?
Yes.
Use the whole
That's
amount?
Yeah, that's occurred before. In a
Okay.
couple different scenarios, we've actually gotten money back. Either it was unspent, and I'm trying to think with the call boxes. Chas, were you on the commission then?
No, but I was on HCC DC, and the call boxes. We have spent the money, but a little bit. But the call box project goes on.
Okay.
And so
But yes.
So the ANC's money got spent within the
Okay.
60 days.
Okay. But yes, Commissioner Nagy, we definitely have received money coming back off of a grant that we've made in the past, to answer your question.
Thank you. And just to let people know, there are a couple of comments in the chat, but I don't want to cut Commissioner Goslin off.
Well, all I'd say, I think you raise a completely legitimate concern, Liz, and I think, Chas, we should, I hope we approve this grant, but I hope we approve it on the basis that any overage you will donate back 50-50 to individual contributors and the ANC, so that we don't end up with some pot of money that we don't that we shouldn't
Peter, there's a practical issue there, how to allocate that to the individual contributors, that I'd have to figure out how to do.
Okay, I just think we do have to take care of the problem, Liz.
Yeah. So I guess what I would propose to do would be to not accept anything that puts us in that position. If we get beyond $2,000 above what we need, then we stop collecting. We stop collecting money when we have the budget.
Okay.
Just follow up on that. I know you guys are trying to talk. Is that okay? One of the comments that I was alluding to in the chat is returning to donors is a possible tax complication.
Yeah.
So to my mind, you need it 50-50, splitting the baby doesn't really work. It needs to come back to the ANC.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Corinthia?
Oh, Chaz addressed what I was concerned about. I was just going to suggest that if they want to collect donations, to do it to a certain date, stop the date, then come to the ANC for that money, and then so.
Laura?
And mine was sort of similar to Corinthia's, although I didn't know if we could do a grant up to certain amount of money, say a grant up to $1,500. And then once they hit their date, then, up to that amount, we would have approved it. But I think Corinthia's is tidier.
Mm-hmm.
Is that acceptable to you and Brian?
Yes, no, and to answer the question in the chat about the contributions directly to the GoFundMe, HCCDC is a charitable organization, and contributions to HCCDC are um, deductible under the Internal Revenue Code. And so the GoFundMe contributions are to an account that Brian controls. So how we can convert those to charitable contributions that people can get credit for is an issue I have to work on. So it's cleaner, frankly, to make them to HCCDC.
Okay.
But we can.
Could I answer the question that I think it's Brian Hellman asked?
Yes.
And that is that this seems to me to be absolutely something that fits the metric for helping the community, beautifying and improving the community and in a local way. So the notion of doing, maybe we could, we're a wealthy community. Maybe we could pay for it all with individual contributions. I too would like to make one, but I do think that we as an ANC representing the community should honor Kenny Coombs by contributing towards it. And I hope that we do. And I'm happy to take Corinthia's suggestion and Laura's and to address the problem that Liz raises. Brian.
Yes.
You're
There
on.
are two Brians, Peter.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Brian Hellman has his hand up, and I was going to but Brian Hellman, just wait a second. Before I take comments from the community, more comments from the community, are there anything else that commissioners want to say? Because we need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Hellman.
I'll be brief as well. Chas Cadwell, I'm sorry. I want you to know that I have questions about the amount of money that has been allocated to historic Chevy Chase for windows that will be presented as part of the DC 250 celebration. And so I kind of want to know what the budget was for that and what was allocated to historic Chevy Chase as a charitable organization as a part of that. And I'm kind of unclear as to whether a family memorial that you're proposing has gone through the same vetting process as other projects of historic Chevy Chase. And I raise that partly because of the district's so-called FACES project in 2020, which looked at renaming 139 buildings and memorials around the district because of connections to slavery and enslavers, for example. I don't know that this has gone through that vetting. Has it gone through that vetting?
Well, can I just, before Chas answers, just say, Brian, the issue you raised about the 250 project, if you want to raise it and have the commission take that up at a different time, that's fine. I'm not sure what the link is to this particular grant application.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I think we ought to celebrate all of our community members, and yet there's questions about understanding our community. And I think historic Chevy Chase has contributed a great deal to that conversation, and yet some of it, I think it is also left out far too much from my perspective. But I don't know anything about Kenny Coombs, and I don't know anything about whether there was a vetting process or what happened when the memorial was being considered.
I'd be happy to answer that. We, if I can, Peter. I spent a lot of time with Brian Combs, first of all, and then I've talked to people who were at Lafayette over the period in question where Kenny Combs was. I've never met him or his wife, but I've searched high and low for the usual questions. Was there anything in the Kenny Combs background that would embarrass HCCDC or the ANC were it to come to light? And the answer is no, there's nothing. I didn't hire a detective service to go back through, but we didn't do that for the other 22 benches either. And Lord knows what's buried in those histories. The Windows project that you refer to is an entirely separate project. And that was done in conjunction with the Race Committee and I believe the Chevy Chase Community Association. And the money for that did not come from the ANC at all. We had a small amount of money from CVS itself to pay for fixing the exhibit that's in their windows. And
So
then
CVS made a charitable contribution, in other words, for that?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Look, can I just say this is, again, this seems to me to be an issue,
Yeah.
a separate issue. If you, Brian,
Yeah.
and if you want to bring this up at some future meeting, that's fine. But I mean, you've just heard that there was vetting of this. Because Brian Coombs is on the line. I mean, he lost both his parents. He has shown that his parents played a huge role in this community. People have said on the listserv that honoring Kenny Coombs is a great thing for this community to do. See Patty Myler's note on the listserv. It seems to me that this is something that we need to take to a vote now, unless other commissioners have comments.
Any questions? Commissioner Nye.
Yeah, I just, for the sake of the minutes, I would like whatever we vote on to be like crystal clear, please. Thank you.
Hey, Chas, do you want to try this or should I try this? That this is what the ANC supports the application by Historic Chevy Chase DC, working with Brian Coombs for a public space permit to install a bench in front of the tree box, at the tree box in front of the Avalon Theater, and approve. What?
Mr. Gosselin?
Yeah.
We can't vote on the grant at this meeting.
So this is all right.
This will
Okay.
make it very easy.
That simplifies
right.
it. Brian Coombs, this is a procedure that goes.
Sure.
And Chas, I think I mentioned this, but I completely forgot about it. This thing has been in train for a while. So we have to hear about grant applications at one meeting, but cannot vote on them at that meeting. So we will have to delay that until our next meeting. But to Liz's point of having exact wording, I just gave it to you, that we support the application by the Historic Chevy Chase DC in conjunction with Brian Coombs for a public space permit for a bench to be installed by the tree box in front of the Avalon Theater. Does that do it for you, Liz?
Because it's close. I just think that we'll need to include some language that defines how we're going to allocate the money and what we're going to get, that we're going to get some money back if necessary.
Yeah, but
Chas is nodding his head. Yeah.
But I think what Lisa said is we can't vote on. I mean, we're going to have to treat that.
No, I know. But when we do, is that clear enough for me? And the answer is not quite, but almost. Okay. So we'll get there. We'll have the right. I mean, it just needs to include.
Yeah.
Just needs to include language about how to handle the money.
So you can circulate that language, either Peter or Liz, and clarify it. So when we come back to vote on it at the next meeting, I think what Liz is saying, she would like a clear motion. So you can, between now and the next meeting, clarify that language that'll be used for the motion.
But the motion we're going to vote on tonight is the one just about supporting the public space application.
I don't even know if we should do that because if I'm not mistaken, and commissioners correct me, I believe we get a notification from the city on public space application, and that's like a separate, right, Peter? That's a whole separate discussion and vote, public space application.
I think that talking to Brian Coombs and talking to Chas, that they want to be able. They think it'll help their case going to the Public Space Committee if we support them. So rather than doing it after the fact that they're applying, I think they would like us to do it before. You two tell me if I'm.
Yes, no, it was exactly my point.
Yes.
You know, having
Okay.
the community support. I think I've been through the criteria for the public space permit, and it seems straightforward. And the site plan you have is the key technical stumbling block, and we have that in hand. So, and we have the 22 other examples of the benches being installed. So I don't think it's too complicated. So, if we have that, um, file that sooner and get moving. And then if in the meantime, we'll work out how to handle the GoFundMe alongside a grant, so that's doesn't exceed the budget. And so that for your next committee meeting, I mean, if you're acceptable to moving this way, it would be helpful to us to move us more quickly.
So I'd like to move that we vote on the resolution saying that we support historic Chevy Chase DC's application with Brian Coombs for a public space permit to install a bench at the tree box in front of Avalon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
And wait, Peter, before you call the vote, just discussion point. And just a comment to say, I do believe I have no problem with voting on this in advance, but public space permits will come to the ANC. And when it does come to the ANC, as long as we open that back up for another round of.
Sure, fine with me. That's fine with me. Can we vote on this now? I'm just trying to move the meeting along. All in
the community an opportunity to.
The community. Didn't they, or haven't we already?
At a later date, Peter, she means.
No, at a later date. What I'm saying, Peter, is as an ANC, the city is going to give us a notice and say, here is a public space application. As long as we go back to the community and back on the agenda, so that people have an opportunity to weigh in again on the public space application. But I don't have a problem with, preemptively saying we agree, as long as we go back. Yeah.
All right, let's get this to a vote. All in favor of supporting the public space application, raise your hand, please. Okay, good. I think that's 7-0. Am I correct? Were there any abstentions? Any no's? Good. All right. Corinthia, was that raising your hand, or was that a question?
A vote.
No. Okay. Chas, did you have something closing?
I just wanted to thank everybody for your kind words about this effort and the willingness to make a contribution as we move ahead, and the consideration of the grant. And I think the solution you've come at is a good one.
Okay. And I just want to say to Brian Coombs, I mean, what a great thing to do for your parents.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian, from me and Mr. Gore.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. He's so sweet. I mean, Brian has helped us so many times. We come in there, we need to get something notarized, and it's always Brian. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. No, it means a lot.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For 15 minutes. For 15 minutes.
Yeah. So the next item on our agenda, hopefully, Skye Webster, are you on with RiverSmart Homes?
Raise your hand.
Where's my?
There he is.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I was looking for the button to raise my hand.
Okay. I can't see. Can you come off camera?
You're still on.
I want to leave for now.
Yeah. You're done, right?
I guess. Yeah.
Would it be possible for me to share my screen for my short presentation?
Somebody has to make you a co-host. I'm not a.
I've done it. You can share your screen. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, this is just a very brief presentation about the RiverSmart Homes program offered by the Department of Energy and Environment. And yeah, it's just about 10 slides, so it shouldn't be too long. So we'll just be covering what's the RiverSmart Homes program, what do we offer, how to sign up, and then we can just close out with some questions. So the purpose of the RiverSmart Homes program provided by DOEE is to ensure that DC's waterways stay clean, educate district residents, increase habitat diversity, and promote conservation, reduce stormwater runoff that's impacting residential properties, and also preserving residential properties. So just a quick overview of what storm runoff is. Stormwater runoff is the excessive rainfall that does not soak into the ground. So oftentimes in DC, when it rains, 43% of the district's land area is impervious, meaning that 43% of the time when the raindrop hits DC, it slides off of another surface, often picking up different things like pet waste, trash, and different pollutants and carrying it into our waterways. So what does the RiverSmart Homes program do? Since 2008, we've provided stormwater management, green infrastructure retrofits to residential properties. This includes 5 different retrofits like rain barrels, 2 different types of landscaping, shade trees, and a permeable surface rebate. Through this program, we provide these services at a subsidized rate. That way that most residents can, or all residents can have access to the program. And we start this program by providing a free assessment for residential properties, providing reports the residents can look over and review what they qualify for. And also the program is completely optional. So residents aren't required to go through with all the recommendations of the RiverSmart program. But the idea is that we just are able to show residents the possibilities of different things that they can do on their property. So again, these are some of or all of the best management practices or BMPs that we offer through our program. We offer rain barrels that are valued at $450, but we offer them for a $50 copay. That includes the complete install process, and the install is usually about an hour long or even shorter than that. So part of your assessment while your auditor is on your property, we take note of the size and color of your downspout, and that way when it is time to install, we have pieces that match your home and it isn't anything tacky or anything like that. They're always installed on 1-foot cinder blocks because our rain barrels do not have water pressure in them. So they are completely gravity fed, and we want to make sure that folks are able to completely empty their barrel. The major maintenance of this barrel is just making sure you empty it the day after it rains. And also cleaning out this filter, which is this little octagonal knob on the barrel. We also offer a rain barrel rebate where we provide residents $2 for every gallon that they collect if they decide to install their own barrels. So this includes barrels that are smaller than what we provide, like 50-gallon barrels or more qualify for a rebate. We also provide shade trees offered by KC Trees. Our trees are absolutely free. They're not huge trees once they enter the yard. They are seedlings, so they won't reach their full maturity for another 10 to 15 years. And the great thing about KC Trees is they have about 19 different species for residents to choose from or shop through. And through this program, we also offer a rebate option that varies between $50 to $100, depending on the type of tree the residents decide to install on their property. We also offer 2 different types of landscaping. This includes rain gardens and bayscapes, both valued at $2,400, but we provide them for $100. And this includes the complete consultation, the soil test, the percolation test, and a 1-year warranty on the plant. So if they do die, we will come out and replace them. The difference between a rain garden and a bayscape is that a rain garden is always connected to the downspout of the home. Throughout our positions as auditors, we use satellite imagery to measure the roof of the home. So that usually helps us determine how much water a rain garden can handle. So if your downspout is draining 500 square feet worth of roof area, then your rain garden will be 50 square feet. If it's draining 400, then it'll be 40 square feet and so on. We also offer a rebate for this option too, where we provide up to $42 per square foot of the rain garden, which is a really great deal because this is a project that can be DIY'd. A bayscape, on the other hand, we just call it a bayscape. That's just our coin term for a native plant garden, but this is not connected to a downspout and is often placed on sloped or eroded areas. And we don't offer a rebate for this, but residents are more than welcome to, install native plants into their yard. The last thing that we provide a rebate for is the permeable paver rebate program, which is only exclusively offered to people who live in the MS4, which definitely this area, this ANC area could definitely benefit from that. What we do is we provide residents with two options as far as removing hardscapes like driveways and patios, where we provide you with the option to either replace it with vegetation like grass or other native plants, or you can replace it with a permeable paver system. Through this program, we offer you up to $6,000 back for replacing this surface with either vegetation or permeable pavers. However, we do only cover 1/3 of the cost. So in order to receive the full $6,000, you would have to spend $18,000 to, receive that. But yeah, so these are just some of the options that we offer, or all of the options that we offer. So the way the RiverSmart Homes program works is that it's completely voluntary. Residents sign up on their own. You are then assigned someone from the DOE team. We would then send out a scheduling link, and you just pick a day that works best for you. We would then arrive to your property, and we complete the assessment within like 60 minutes. After leaving the property, you will receive a report from your auditor 2 weeks after, and then you can move forward with any projects that interest you. Again, residents aren't required to go through with all the things that we offer on the property. Everything is completely optional. And the great thing is that these reports don't expire. So whether you wait 3 months, 3 years from now to start any of these projects, that is perfectly fine. Once you notify your auditor that you want to move forward with the project, then it's pretty easy. We sign you up on our end, and you pretty much just wait for the contractors to reach out to you. Once any of these projects are installed on the property, you'll be automatically enrolled into our RiverSmart Rewards system, which is just our messenger to DC Water, letting them know who's managing their stormwater. It goes by address, and then you'll receive a discount on your DC Water bill for having any of these projects. The more projects, the bigger the discount. So this is just how you sign up. I'll also just be dropping some links in the chat, and that way you can have an easy click from this meeting to just sign up for the projects. And again, the consultation is absolutely free, and this program is open to renters. I'm pretty sure that this area of DC pretty much just has single family homes, but if anyone does live in a multi-dwelling unit, you are also welcome to apply. We just heavily encourage that you talk to your landlord about it before moving forward with these practices. Once you sign up, you do also sign a form saying that you will take care of the practices, but it's not too much pressure. That just means empty your rain barrel and weed your garden and prune your tree and mulch it. Those are just a simple task of maintaining our projects. For those who are already RiverSmart Homes participants, right now, our contractors, the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, who provides our rain barrels, our permeable paver rebates, and our landscaping, they're offering discounted maintenance. So you will be looking at the flyer on the left-hand side, where you can receive up to 50% off to have any of those practices maintained for you if you're already an existing RiverSmart Homes participant. And I'll also be dropping the link to that in the chat. And then that's about it. This is my contact information. Again, my name is Skye Webster. I'm one of the auditors on the team. These are just some folks who are also on our team who could possibly come out to your property and assess it. I know ANC Sherman has already met us already. We came to his house and did a group assessment last Halloween, and that was pretty fun. So big shout out to you for hosting our group assessment.
Absolutely happy to do it.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Skye?
I would just, and Skye, if you don't mind, stop sharing your.
Yeah.
I've got my hand up. If anybody can.
I can't see. Yeah, I can't see.
Carol has her hand up.
Yeah. So Skye, I think this is a fantastic program, and I cannot wait to tell my neighbors and constituents about it. And I think the cost savings are extraordinary. So I congratulate you. I think this is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
I'll be in touch with you because I'd like to spread the word more about this program. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I just shared the links in the chat as well as my contact information. So please feel free to reach out if anyone has any additional questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Fennessy?
Hi. Yeah, I've seen a number of these projects, and some of them have been just gorgeous. It seems in the past to really vary by contractor. Do you still have a variety of contractors that you use?
Absolutely, yeah. We
Okay.
keep an extensive list of contractors. All of their information is on our website.
Okay.
So regardless if that's for the rain barrel installs, landscaping, or permeable pavers, we have the list of all those contractors.
And do people get to choose these days, or are they assigned one?
Folks are normally assigned one, but if you would like to choose, you're more than welcome. The main contractors that we work with directly is just Casey Trees and the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay. But once the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay reaches out to residents, you're more than welcome to request someone who you've seen on the contract list.
Okay. And then just one more follow-up, because the experience we had with our next door neighbors was interesting. They put in a big rain garden, and the day after the rain garden, we had a big rain, and it completely overflowed into our yard. And
Oh no.
and they called RiverSmart, and RiverSmart said that they don't maintain the gardens. And they said, well, we just installed it 24 hours ago. And they're like, not our thing. So another issue that kind of came out of that was it was set for like a 1-inch rain. And I was wondering if with the increased amounts of rain that we see with global warming, what is the level of, like, for how much rain are these gardens supposed to absorb at one time?
Yeah, so they're actually supposed to be built out for 1.2-inch rainstorms, which I know is not too great of a distance. Or difference. We have talked to the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay about creating like another option as rainstorms increase. But as of right now, the 1.2 inch coverage that the rain gardens handle should be able to maintain them. But also, no, I sincerely apologize that happened with the rain garden next door to you. Unfortunately, our team directly does not handle maintenance of the rain gardens. It would have to be the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay who would essentially handle the maintenance. And this is kind of where we go back to, we're offering that 50% maintenance off for residents. So this would be like a great time to reach out to them as they are like focusing heavy on like maintenance on their existing practices.
Skye, I have a question. Is there a listing available for ANCs of maybe neighbors that do have gardens that might need help with maintenance? Bruce has definitely done a lot of work in the ANC on this in terms of what do you call those? Bioretention beds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But maybe it's good to turn to the neighborhood beds just to make sure we're maintaining those. To me, it seems like I've seen some really, really beautiful work that you guys done for neighbors that had these installed, but I do think maintenance is an issue. And I'm just thinking, since there is like the discount, maybe there's a way that we can help you all make sure that we help the neighbors in terms of maintenance.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's a great idea. I could definitely bring it back to the team as we are like kind of shifting our focus a little bit more for like the next budget cycle. So I definitely think that maintaining our current BMPs could be a route that we could go with, and also looping in communities and creating what it sounds like as like a neighbor helps neighbor program. But I think that would be a great idea. And I could definitely bring it up to my team and see how we can move forward with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. Let me go to Grunwald, then Fennessy. Laura, I didn't know if you had another question or you just got your hand raised. I know.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, Carol just raised her hand.
Yeah. So, Skye, I'm a little bit confused because now we brought up bioretention pits that are in the street when I thought you were initially talking about rain gardens on private property. So, can you just straighten me out, please? I thought you were talking about private property and helping people create rain gardens, right?
Yes, absolutely.
At
So
least brought up the bio pits, or someone did, the bio pits that are on the street, which are not maintained well at all. So do you handle both of those? Is that it?
So no, my program is strictly just residential properties.
Okay.
I think what Lisa was mentioning was last year we did do like a community day where we came out and we maintenance some of the bioretentions around the area. That would be our maintenance branch, and they are also that day was also supposed to be a launch of a voluntary bioretention maintenance program that they're doing in a separate department at DOEE. So
Right.
those
Oh,
are public, public right away. And
okay.
that'll be more of like a voluntary situation when maintaining those
Okay. Yeah.
bioretentions.
No, we shouldn't be having volunteers maintain those bioretention pits. They're, pretty delicate animals and they clog up really easily. When they clog up, they flood. So there really should be, I appreciate the volunteers who've been doing the work thus far, but, we really do need to have professionals, maintaining those pits because, like I said, they get clogged. When they get clogged, they flood and they breed mosquitoes and stuff. So, but anyway, I congratulate you on your private rain gardens work.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, community members, any more questions?
Just a quick clarification, and of course, Skye, again, thank you so much for all your great work and for the session that you spent at our house. Greatly appreciated. We have those plans and are looking forward to implementing them sometime in the not too distant future. Just for everybody's benefit here, the Department of Energy and Environment does maintain the bioretention beds throughout the neighborhood. And the program that Skye's referring to that we have in our single member district worked out with Jim Woodworth of DOEE is to have volunteers in the neighborhood help maintain the bioretention beds. Help, that is the operative word. Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, Rock Creek Conservancy are contractors of DOEEs who've had the contracts to maintain them. So citizens aren't stepping in to substitute for the contractors. Citizens have stepped in to help to try to do that. And Lisa, you participated in one of those days we had, and we continue to do that. So that effort with DOEE continues, but just to keep them, again, separate, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great day. All right. Thank you so much, Skye. I really appreciate it. It was very helpful. And if you can get back with me and the commission on that, private part and maintenance and helping on that, that would be very, very helpful.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Next presentation, Ted Van, and I don't want to mispronounce your name. Is it Houten or Houten? Houten?
Houten.
With
Ben Houten.
Houten. Okay. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me today.
Good. Absolutely. Okay. So Ted is going to give us an update on the Connecticut Avenue Multimodal Safety Improvement Project. He reached out and asked to be on the agenda. I know we probably haven't had an update in this ANC. Wow, I would say well over a year, maybe even more than that, maybe going on 2, since the decision was made not to include the bike lanes. So Ted, can you go ahead? Do you need to be made co-host? Do you have a presentation or are you just talking?
No, I have slides.
Okay. Bruce, can you make him co-host? And then Ted, you can go on and get started on your presentation.
Okay. Yeah, Ted, you can share now. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and do that. Oh, there we are. Okay, there it is. All right. Okay, let me make this full screen. Okay, can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, good. Well, thanks for having me today. Here to give you an update on the Connecticut Avenue multimodal safety improvement project. We had a public meeting last year, and then we updated the community advisory committee, of which there were commissioners from 3-4G on that. And now we're coming to the ANC to giving you an update on where the project stands. Currently, where we are is it is no longer this project is no longer proposing corridor-wide improvements. We are now focused on specific intersections along Connecticut Avenue. So that is the focus of the project now. So what we'll be sharing is proposed plans for intersections, and then discussing next steps. So let me just advance here. There we are. Okay, so I'll just give you an overview of some of our recent work. We'll share the intersections that we've been working on. We'll share for the whole corridor, so all the way from Chevy Chase Circle to Calvert, and then we'll go into detail in the intersections that are in your ANC, and then we'll talk through next steps. So the project, we have a budget item of $7.1 million to do these safety improvements along Connecticut Avenue. We're focusing on critical safety upgrades at key intersections. I should note that while we're not proposing corridor-wide changes at this time, nothing that we're proposing would preclude us from considering those in the future. So what we looked at is we looked at crash history. We looked at several years of crash data. Another thing that we focused on are uncontrolled pedestrian crossings, of which there are a number in your ANC. We looked at locations where the geometry is particularly challenging for some modes. And then we looked at where sight lines were obstructed. And one example is, and this is something that came in from a resident, bringing concern to the intersection of Connecticut and Nebraska, which is just outside of your ANC. There were some sightline concerns with the infrastructure that's in place there. So we took all of those together, and we did some data analysis and came up with intersections that we're proposing improvements for. So what we did is we looked at the crash data. We looked at several years of crash data, and incorporating with other impacts, we identified a number of intersections that we're investigating for safety improvements. The map that you can see here, this is a heat map of crashes. As you can see, they're concentrated on the intersections, so that's why we're focusing there. The crashes were weighed if they included a fatality or a serious injury, or if a pedestrian or bicyclist were involved. Those crashes got a greater weight in our analysis than other crashes. And then what we did is we developed recommendations, which we'll present to you today. We developed cost estimates, and then we developed a cost-benefit ratio. And we used that, so we came up with a cost-benefit analysis to determine how we're prioritizing the intersections, and which we've sorted into 3 tiers. And the intersection improvements, and you'll see this when we go through the individual intersections, they vary. We're not doing the same thing at every single intersection. Some are larger interventions, a new hawk, a new signal, and some are smaller, sign striping markings. And you'll see the variety of those in our presentation today. So we'll go ahead and go through the corridor. We'll start in 3C. We are proposing improvements to 9 intersections, and we'll be presenting to 3C in a couple of weeks. We presented to 3F last week. They have 6 intersections, and we presented those to them. And then we're here with you today, and we have 8 intersections that we'll be presenting to you. And of your 8 intersections, 7 are in our highest priority tier. So those are ones that would come first. anything in blue is the second tier. Other locations have that. 3F has a couple in tier 2. You all don't, and then you have one that's tier 3 up at Oliver. And we will go ahead and start at the north and work our way down. So Oliver, what we're proposing for this intersection is to build that southern crosswalk that doesn't exist today on the south side of Oliver. So we would stripe that crosswalk, and then we'd add curb ramps to that. Moving down to Northampton, our proposal here is to stripe stop bars to help with the hawk that's existing here, and then have a left turn, restrict left turns from southbound Connecticut onto Northampton to improve safety. We're also proposing to improve visibility to reduce some parking at Connecticut Northampton. We know that parking is really important to the community. So, we looked at that and looked at trade-offs. And in this instance, we do think that it does make sense to reduce some parking to improve pedestrian visibility here. And I should note that we don't have a full number of what we're looking at. Anything that has a reduction in parking or a change in traffic pattern of which this intersection has both, we would do a notice of intent, and that would have exactly the details of how much parking and where we're proposing to reduce or repurpose. Moving down the corridor to McKinley, this one looks a little different because this is one that is moving forward a little bit faster than the rest. This is something that we got in through an existing contract. What we're proposing to do here in order to improve pedestrian safety and to slow drivers, especially those making turns, we're proposing a hardened center lines, which is these kind of yellow. I apologize that this is a little small for some of you, but we'll make this slide available on our website, and you can download it at your leisure and you can zoom in. But we're proposing these hardened center lines at Connecticut and McKinley, just kind of raised elements right at the intersection, so that if you're making primarily left turns, but if you're making a turn, you have to slow down to do it, so that improves safety. And then we've got flex posts on McKinley to improve safety, and again to make those turns a little slower. And then some restriping and signage updates as well. Moving down to Morrison, this is another one where we'd propose to reduce parking to improve visibility, and then we'd also update signage at this intersection. Moving down to Legation. At Legation, this is something we had previously shared at public meetings last year. This is still on track to have a hawk signal installed. This is currently a location where there are uncontrolled crosswalks. So we're proposing to install a hawk signal at Legation, and then do some striping and signage to support that. Moving down to Military, our proposal here, a lighter touch here than at some other locations, but our proposal here is to move this northbound bus stop to the north side of the intersection, or the far side. And we're proposing to do that to reduce conflicts with cars that are turning at this intersection. So the bus clears the intersection and then reduces conflicts with turning drivers at the intersection. Moving down to Kanawha, this is another location with a uncontrolled crosswalk. And what we're proposing to do here is to do a hardened center line. That's the red that you see, again, to slow turning drivers, especially left turning drivers. So install that on Connecticut at both sides of the intersection, and then updating the signage at that intersection. And then moving down to the last one, and I know I've thrown a lot at you. The last one that we're proposing improvements to is Jocelyn Street. This is another with a uncontrolled crosswalk. We have done an analysis, and we can install a full traffic signal at this intersection. We'd also relocate the bus stops to reduce some conflicts. The right side crosswalk across Jocelyn, we'd upgrade to the high visibility or the ladder or the zebra pattern. And then we'd also add the fourth crosswalk on the south side of Jocelyn. Again, we have $7.1 million over the next 2 years. We anticipate that these improvements will be implemented over the next 2 to 3 years. Anything that has a parking impact or a traffic change, anything where we're installing a signal or a hawk, we'd release a notice of intent. We're happy to do more outreach on these individual intersections as we get closer to final plans. Right now, these are kind of in the concept stage, but once we get closer to the plans are further along, we're happy to reach out to you or individual commissioners to let you know what's coming and to continue to engage the community on intersections. And some of these, we've already gotten some of these on in existing DDOT projects, so they have a clearer implementation timeline. McKinley will be implemented later this summer. And then the new hawk at Legation will be implemented next summer. So that is, one last thing. I know that there's still interest among some about bike lanes in the neighborhood. DDOT is currently undergoing a strategic bikeways plan, which will look at the network for the entire district. So we are currently starting some public engagement on the project. I don't know exactly if there's anything for Ward 3 or Ward 4, but eventually we'll be doing things in all 8 wards of the district. And if you want more information, that's the website right there. And that is all I have. That's my contact information if you have any questions. And then the website for the project and these slides will be available on that website. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay. Ted, do you mind, let's see, dropping your, well, I'm on the phone, I can see, I just moved screen, but folks on the call might not be able to see the entire audience if your screen is still up. But I will go to commissioners first. I definitely have some questions, but I'm gonna go with fellow commissioners first. So starting with Commissioner Gosselin, then Fennessy.
And Ted, it's Bruce Sherman. Could you drop your screen, stop sharing, if you wouldn't mind, so we can go back?
Yes. If there are any questions that are helpful by having the graphic back up, I may want to reshare, but I'm happy to.
Okay, well, maybe just keep it up for now. Then that's
okay. Yeah. Happy to do that.
Look, Laura had her hand up first, so why don't you go first?
Okay, go on.
You're on mute, Laura.
I guess one of the concerns that I have, and this isn't, it's kind of a general one, but then it's coming back here, is this seems to be done by DDOT working on its own and not talking to the residents and neighbors first. And it's like, we'll be happy to do outreach, but that sounds like you're going to tell us what you're going to do as opposed to working with us and figuring out what we think we need done, like, for example, in that southbound turn on Northampton, that you're going to take away that left turn lane. I use it all the time, turning left coming down, because it is much safer than turning left on McKinley. Just the way that there's no like cross person coming. So I don't have to monitor another left, like an oncoming left turn vehicle. And because of the light in McKinley, right, those cars stop at McKinley. Once they clear, then I've got a clear left turn. And it's very easy. It's very safe. It's on my way home. It's much tidier than McKinley, where I can't see what's happening because the other people are coming left. And then many people will run that light. And I have to turn after the light turns red, which is not safe. So I would appreciate a chance to talk about these and see, hey, maybe we see a different perspective. And I also think the while looking at crash data is important, it's kind of like the U.S. approach to terrorism. They hardened the targets after the fact. The Israelis are much smarter about it. They look at like potential things, and I think that's where the neighbors can see kind of the real lived experience. And I also looked at your flex post on McKinley, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the buses are coming there. People are turning into CVS there. If you put flex post there, it seems like a solution in search of a problem. And I would really like to think that we're going to be able to have input and not just be told what's going to happen.
Yeah, thanks. So there's a lot there. So if I don't respond to everything in your question, happy to repeat. But a couple of things. One, this project, we have been doing outreach on this project for quite a while. So we have reviewed, comments we've been getting as we've been doing this project. And I know the project has changed from the reversible lane to the bike lane to now the bike lane is no longer included in the project. So, and now we're focused on specific intersections. So the project has changed tack a couple of times, which I admit. But we have been doing outreach throughout, and previous outreach has informed this effort. Of course, I don't think we didn't expect that everything that we were proposing today would be universally accepted, and there would be concerns, which is we're happy to work through. By the time we get to the notice intent or implementing this stuff, these intersections, the plans may look different. There may be some things that are dropped and other things that are added. So we're happy to have those conversations. I think another note is, it's really important for us that our projects have a solid foundation in data. And, especially in our current climate of restrained budgets and other concerns, we really want data-driven projects. We can't be doing vibes-based transportation planning. We do need, we do need data support, and that's really important. And, if you have intersection A where there are, a lot of crashes, and then intersection B where there are less crashes, you have to focus on intersection A first. And that's what this project is doing. Of course, we understand that there are that different residents will have different concerns about different intersections. We're happy to engage with residents and to continue to talk. And like I said, nothing that I'm proposing today is happening tomorrow. And even the McKinley one, we're happy to talk through, or any concerns. We're happy to continue to talk. So yeah.
I just think looking at the problem with looking at crash data and waiting to do safety improvements for crash data as opposed to talking with neighbors preemptively is that you have to wait for a crash for something to be found dangerous, and you miss things that people are seeing. And I saw this when I lived on MacArthur Boulevard, and we kept telling them that we needed speed cameras and they said, no. And then Sylvia Zimmerman got killed in a hit and run. And guess what? We got our camera because then you had the data, but the neighbors were complaining for years. And nothing was done until somebody got killed. So I do think there's good reason to look at the neighbors. It may not be quantitative data in the way that you would like it with a crash, but it's qualitative data, which are anecdotal complements. And that's the kind of data that's very valid. Thank you.
Okay, could I follow up? With regard to what you're proposing, I want to talk about two intersections just very quickly.
Sure.
Northampton, for starters. You will see in the chat that loads of people are talking about parking. There's a post office there. There is a small parking lot that is going to be essentially taken over by a new restaurant off Northampton. But when that goes, people using the post office have a terrible time parking. And I don't know what kind of data you would like, but if there are ways that I could contribute on doing counts or something like that. I mean, that is going to be a real problem if you take away a lot of parking places there. It's going to be a problem anyways, but it's going to be a problem if you take them away and then in fact that parking lot goes. So I just point that out about Northampton. I wanted to ask you about Jocelyn, if you just scroll back. Um, yeah, so between Nebraska and Livingston, how many lights are there now? And this would add one more. I think there's one at Regency House. This would be
I'd have to pull up a map, but
the point I want to make is this,
sure.
that this is a heavily traveled road. I just don't know about queuing, and if you're gonna, I mean, if you're one of the things that happens at the Regency House light is because that's senior housing. That light is a very long light, and even at night, it often backs up into a very difficult intersection at Chevy Chase Parkway and Connecticut. Not a square intersection, big open space, so people think they've got room to move, and you end up closing off Chevy Chase Parkway. It's so that I'm concerned about how many times you're going to stop people between Nebraska and Livingston, and if you stop them too many times, they're going to start, running yellows, running reds, getting crazy. So I'm concerned about how many lights you've got there.
Yeah. Well, this light, this signal would be synced to the other signals on Connecticut Avenue. And the other thing is, I think, yes, signals cause drivers to stop, but they also provide protection for pedestrians trying to cross. And on a multi-lane roadway such as Connecticut Avenue, anywhere we can do that, where there are existing crosswalks, is important. I know in the past, we have proposed, this and in other locations, we've proposed, okay, well, at some intersections we can put in a signal, and in other intersections, we could remove the crosswalk, and that has proven to be very, even more unpopular. So, everything that we're proposing as part of this, today and everything we do at DDOT, it's all about trade-offs, and it's impossible to make every single person 100% happy about everything. We try to strike a balance, and it certainly takes time. I'm not saying that what we're proposing today is getting it right every single time. But it is, I think overall, I think these proposals would improve safety on a Connecticut Avenue. Are there things that we could alter? Certainly. But overall, we're focused on safety along the corridor. And sometimes that means that, cars need to stop a little bit, or, somebody maybe here and there, we need to remove a parking space to improve safety. And, those are things that we don't do lightly. But, they're important trade-offs that ultimately are made in the interest of improving safety in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Hi. Peter, were you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Ted. I'm Commissioner Simmons, so I share half of Connecticut Avenue with Commissioner Goslin. Just for the community awareness, we have a community engagement meeting scheduled with DDOT on Wednesday, 7 p.m. I put the link in the chat for all of you who are not aware of that. Also, I just wanted to express that a lot of my constituents are concerned with ligation in Connecticut, so we are very appreciative and looking forward to that hot light there. I've also had concerns about the McKinley and Connecticut area, so I'm not sure if hopefully that is what my constituents are going to be happy with. And also the Northampton, I've received a lot of complaints about crossing that crosswalk. And when the hawk light come on, then the people turning left. And so there's been concerns about that. So I just want to thank you for addressing those concerns because those are the main ones that I've received from my constituents. In our meeting on Wednesday, we'll talk about the other traffic areas of McKinley and Nevada. Also, the bus will no longer be coming down McKinley. So hopefully some of the post issues will be resolved since we won't be having WMATA coming down McKinley. So hopefully everyone can come out on Wednesday with Commissioner Gosselin and I for our DDOT community engagement. Any other concerns you have for DDOT that's not specifically on Connecticut Avenue, I'm sure they'll be open to hear those. Thank you.
Could I just ask, Ted, if you could give us this presentation so that we could use it unless the person who's going to be at our meeting Wednesday is going to have it.
He's on the chat. Christoph.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in the
I sent these slides to Commissioner Gore. They'll be on the Connecticut Avenue website, hopefully tomorrow. But I'm happy to send them to everybody on the commission as well, if that would be helpful.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Nagy.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Just a reminder that I also have in my SMD Connecticut Avenue, so it's not just Commissioners Simmons and Gosselin.
Yep.
So I think four out of the seven. Is that right? Am I getting the numbers right? 4 out of
I
the
looked at the map
seven
before your meeting. I think it's 3.
3, right. So
yeah.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think more about the northern part.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you gave me a chance to clarify that. So Jocelyn is squarely in SMD 07, and I'd like to understand more about what the issue is. At Jocelyn, I drive this all the time, as you can imagine. I live on Jennifer Street, so and I don't turn on Jennifer Street. I turn on Jocelyn. As a matter of fact, we all develop our habits for trying to avoid difficult places. However, I wanted to raise with you because Commissioner Simmons raised it, Chevy Chase Parkway, and excuse me, I beg your pardon. It was Commissioner Gosselin who raised Chevy Chase Parkway. I have been trying for some time to get some attention paid to the Chevy Chase Parkway. The street itself has become a speedway for cars that are cutting through from Reno to Connecticut Avenue. And I understand the concern about stopping too many times on Connecticut Avenue, but these people need some relief. One of my constituents wrote to me, and I conveyed this to Christian Pinheiro, and now I will here and now be conveying it to Christoph, and we'll be talking more about it, was almost sideswiped by a car, physically, her body, not her car, but she herself was almost sideswiped on that street. For some reason, it doesn't meet your algorithm, but the danger, to Commissioner Finnessy's point, do we have to have someone die before we can do something about this street? I think we need to get with each other about the street and figure out how to do something for these people who are afraid to go out, onto the street. So
yeah.
So I raised that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for bringing up Chevy Chase Harrison, which of course is, and it's on the border with your ANC and 3F. So we talked about it with 3F as well. You're right. It's not on our map. We did look at it. We heard concern over crashes and near misses. 3F is very concerned about access to Murch Elementary, which is in their
Right.
ANC.
Definitely.
It's an unsignalized intersection. It's it's a skewed location with Chevy Chase gets more traffic than other streets in the neighborhood, and then you've got Harrison coming in too. So yeah, we looked at that intersection and included it in our analysis. Unfortunately, it came out at a lower tier compared to some of these others. And, I think Part of that is because of the cost benefit analysis. But I think it's something that, we understand the community's desire for improvements to that intersection. I think it's something that, I think it's something that we will continue to try to advance improvements at, either through this project or through other projects. I think if things were a little bit different, if we had a little bit more resources, I would say that if there's, a very short list of intersections that we could add to this project, that's definitely on there. Unfortunately, I'm not presenting it to you today, but we recognize the concerns and we recognize the issues there. And I think it's something that we're continuing to advance. And if the data analysis and the resources come together, I think it's something that we could come back to you with something there. But it's not something that unfortunately, it's something that we're not presenting to you today, but we do recognize the issues there.
So I need to correct myself. Half of Chevy Chase Parkway is in my SMD and the other half, as you point out, is in 3F. I actually should have said Harrison because that's where my constituent almost got hit. I campaigned a lot on Harrison Street because people were never home. So I was on that street a lot trying to knock on doors and talk to people. And I've got to say, I think my street is pretty well traveled now that 39th Street is one direction from Reno to Jennifer. That street is so busy. It's incredible. So I'd like to talk to you guys about Harrison as well as Chevy Chase Parkway. There's just something about that little southern area. And I totally agree. It's a real problem with, kids getting to Merch. I've had people reach out to me about that as well, that the kids are, it's dangerous for kids walking to Merch from my SMD actually to Merch. So maybe we can get together and talk some more about this offline. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Grunwald?
Yes. Hi, Ted. My name is Carol Grunwald. I'm a commissioner for SMD 03. I would like to echo one of our residents in the chat by saying that, I think the best safety effort could be undertaken on Connecticut Avenue if we actually enforce the speeding limits. But I know that's not your bailiwick. So I'm just going to jump over to daylighting and flex posts. I know that there's a real tension between the two. Daylighting is very much needed because it's very hard for cars to see to turn into a road when the cars are parked all the way up to the very tip of the intersection. But I'd like to know how much space you do need for that because flex posts, they're unsightly and they take up a lot of parking. So, there's a tension between, trying to keep the sight lines clear for drivers, which is of the utmost importance, obviously, but also there's a tension between that and putting the flex posts in, which are, as I said, unsightly and they steal parking. So what is is every intersection different or is every intersection the same in terms of the amount of space that you need to create a safe sight line? Daylighting for drivers to be able to see, oncoming cars when they're turning.
Yeah, we have guidelines as far as, cars need to be 25 feet from the crosswalks. Of course, we have a lot of wonky intersections in the district. So sometimes we make adjustments to that. And Connecticut Avenue, all these intersections, they're not at 90 degrees. So sometimes we make adjustments based on that. I think one thing is, we wouldn't propose to put flex post on Connecticut Avenue itself because the curbside lane is rush hour restricted. So we wouldn't put as far as on side streets. One thing we're trying to do with DDOT is strike the balance a little bit between, we in the past we had put out, a lot of flex posts really everywhere. And then, we had gotten pushback from neighbors across the district, not just in your neighborhood. about aesthetics, and now I think our approach to flex posts is being a little more judicious about them and strategic about where we put them in. Both on a, they get hit and then they have to be put back, and then so there's that issue, and then there's also the aesthetics issue. So we're thinking about that a little more strategically. If you'll note in this project, we're not proposing a lot of flex posts in today for that reason. We also have projects. What we're trying to do is, for this project, not so much in the intersection that we're presenting today, but in some others, we're looking at, I'll say Connecticut and Nebraska has that slip lane on the southern corner, and we're proposing to close that with concrete. So where we can do that with this project, we are proposing to do that. We have other projects where we've not so much in your neighborhood. Well, yeah, I haven't looked at the map, but I know that in other neighborhoods where we have put out crosswalks, we are now going back and doing the construction, and that takes more time because the flex post, you can, put it out and it's there, but actually building concrete, you have to consider drainage, you have to consider utility. Like there's a lot more work that needs to be done. But some of these flex posts, we say that they're a temporary material, but they've been out for several years. So, and that's another thing that we've heard from residents is, you said this is temporary and it's been there for, half a decade. So, it certainly takes time and resources to take those installations and make them permanent, but it is something that we are doing throughout the district, and there is a whole program where we've been doing that. So
thank you for your response. I appreciate it.
Any more questions from commissioners? I know there's a lot of comments in the chat, and I see Michelle Wolin has her hand raised. Let me go to Michelle, and then Commissioner Fennessy, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I just want to say, with respect, I did something in the chat about the intersection at Northampton. In addition to the post office, we also have the Avalon movie theater there. And along Connecticut, we have multiple restaurants, none of whom have parking in the back. The grocery stores do, but the restaurants don't. And the Avalon gets people from all over the area. Many people from Maryland come, people from all over the district, and they need a place to park. And I remember the owner of the Parthenon restaurant saying at an ANC meeting about 2 years ago when they were talking about bike lanes, how every Friday night, people who have made reservations at his restaurant call him, about 6 o'clock and say, we're really sorry. We're going to have to cancel because we can't park. We're going to go to Bethesda. And the Avalon, which we fought long and hard to keep in our community, their movies are almost always being played at Bethesda. Okay, so Bethesda has tons of public parking. Parking is really critical in this neighborhood. I cross Northampton and Connecticut all the time. I've never thought that the parked cars have been a problem. And, the hawk light helps tremendously. But if you're concerned about the intersection, maybe put in a full traffic light there. I mean, you're proposing to put one in at Jocelyn, Jennifer, Chevy Chase Parkway, and Nebraska. That's 4 straight blocks. So maybe at Northampton, put in a full light, although I know there is a full light, just a block above. But hopefully if you time them well, it won't back up traffic too much. But I know there are people that influence DDOT who are very much like, oh, get rid of the parking. Parking is critical for the success of our businesses in this neighborhood. It really is. So I beg you to think long and hard before getting rid of parking spaces. And again, I cross that intersection. I don't think it's a problem.
okay, thanks for that. One note: we're proposing new signals or hawks at Legation, the hawk at Legation, and then the new signal at Jocelyn, and then further down outside of this ANC, but a new signal at Chesapeake. So that's three in a kind of a wider area than what you proposed. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
No, I was just saying the addition of a light at Jocelyn with the existing traffic lights.
Okay.
Because there's one at Jennifer, one at Chevy Chase Park, and one at Nebraska.
Yep.
Such one block right after the other.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I just reiterate what we said before. We don't propose to remove parking lightly. And again, this is a proposal. We'll continue to look at this. When we come back to the ANC, we may have removed the reduction of parking at this intersection, or we may look at it and I know we have two arrows here. Maybe we only do it at one location, or maybe it's only one spot at each. Again, it's not something that we do frivolously, even though some people may think that we do. We really do think about that and are aware of the community's need for parking. But again, it's a trade-off and it's a balance, and where we are proposing both here and across the city, when we propose changes in parking, it really is to improve safety. So and maybe from your perspective, you don't see the need, but there's a lot of different perspectives that we hear. So yeah. So again, nothing that we're proposing today, except for what's happening at McKinley, is happening anytime soon. So we're happy to continue to modify and engage and follow up. So yeah.
Okay, let me go to Commissioner Fennessy. So before we wrap this.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question. We were talking about the Merch intersection cost benefit. We have a lot of comments in the chat about 31st in Nebraska where kids cross. I've also had complaints. This is for the intersection of Quesada and Nevada, which is in Commissioner Simmons, actually, but I have residents on Quesada who go down there, and they have kids going to Blessed Sacrament. Is the proximity to schools a factor in your algorithm? And if not, why not?
This project only focused on Connecticut Avenue itself. So as far as other intersections, on Reno or Chevy Chase Parkway or other streets or Broad Branch, this project only focused on Connecticut Avenue. If there are other intersections off of Connecticut Avenue that you all have concerns about, you can submit a traffic safety investigation.
Right, but
my colleague Christoph is on here. There's a number of other DDOT
that's not my
programs and
question,
projects.
though. My question is proximity to school part of your algorithm? If not, why not?
For this project?
No, in general. You said you evaluated things for data, you evaluated like crash data, you looked at cost efficiency. Do you consider proximity to school as part of your algorithm?
I mean, I don't review every single project that we work on at DDOT.
I can jump in here. Hi everyone, this is Christoph Wassmer. I'm the Ward 2 and Ward 3 liaison for DDOT. Yes, we do factor in proximity to schools. We have 350 foot radius from schools is considered the school zone, and so any concerns that are raised within that radius are then weighted differently and scored differently on all of our methods and systems for prioritizing requests. Specifically, our traffic safety input program, which receives and looks at residents' concerns. And so I'm happy to talk about that more offline. But yes, I just wanted to quickly answer that we do look at proximity to schools.
Thank you.
Commissioner Grunwald.
You're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. On that point, I would like to suggest, Christoph, that school zones should be larger and to include some of the intersections that kids must cross to get to school. I think I think, what was it, 50 yards or so is not quite large enough. Um, and
Actually, to that point, they were just recently increased from 250 to 350 feet. So they were increased recently, specifically to that point.
I see. Okay, well, that was the point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons, last comment.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to
last
move
comment,
on.
I'll be real quick. I know we are talking about the proximity to schools and how we should have traffic calming. I just want to remind everyone that as we talk about this and we get those traffic calming items, then we talk about the inconvenience in the community. So we just have to find that balance. So just be mindful of that. You know, we talk about there's no parking, but when we try to accommodate or address traffic issues and pedestrian issues specifically related to schools, then we talk about they're taking away our parking. So we just be mindful of that.
Okay. Ted, thank you for coming out. I wish we had more time for this discussion, and really this really needs to be and hopefully the commission will consider this. I really think this needs to be a special meeting. I think the commissioners had some really good points on trying to understand. So one of the things, and I know you're aware, but this commission in particular has had a huge change in turnover in commissions with the last election. We have 4 new, and they were not privy to some of the discussions and committee work that DDOT had, like you guys had. I don't want to call it a task force, and forgive me, I can't think of the name, where there was a group of residents
Community
that
Advisory
were
Committee.
involved. Yeah, so they're out of the loop on a lot of that. And I think it's a very good question one of the commissioners raised about just understanding the data and why those intersections are problem intersections, because they're going to have to be the ones that have those conversations with their neighbors, and understanding that is going to be really critical for them. So I'm hoping that, and I definitely, and at the top of the meeting, I talked about the statutory notices that ANCs have and making sure we get those on the agenda. And notice of intents was part of that discussion, and that's coming up here. It's just a major deal to make sure that 30 days on a topic like this is not necessarily enough. So I'm hoping that you will be amenable to, especially those commissioners that are impacted. I'm not impacted because I'm at the back end of the ANC, but for those that are, making sure that you're working with them, host, if they want to host a meeting, I hope you all show up so that you can explain some of these decisions to the community. And, for commissioners, it seems like, Ted, you're saying that there might be some wiggle room. So I would encourage commissioners to get with DDOT and advocate what you think is best for your community needs before we get a notice of intent, because we're only going to have like 30 days to respond to that.
Yeah.
But that, Mary, I see your comment. You're right. That's not enough time. But if we start working on it with our community now, but we're going to need you to kind of help get the data, make sure everybody understands, what this is about. Because this is a little bit shocking to me. It's a lot of information to receive.
Right.
And then,
Right.
my brain is like going 1,000 miles an hour. There's a lot of work to do. So I just want to make sure, and we got a ton of stuff on the ANC agenda with the Civic Corps and everything else. We gotta, we're gonna need your help to get this stuff out to the community and make sure people understand.
Well, yeah, if I can respond to that real quickly, you're not going to be getting notice intent on all of these tomorrow, so there is time to work through that. So yeah.
Okay.
Today was just meant as an update. Again, you're not going to be getting notice of intent on all the stuff tomorrow, so there's definitely time to work through that with you all.
Please do send the slide deck to all of the
Yeah,
commissioners.
he said he sent it to me. I bypassed that. I tried to get all this on the agenda. so I missed it
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere.
I'm
I'll
not
make sure
blaming
I get
anybody.
that out.
I mean, Carol has asked for it. I'd like it. Corinthia and I would like it for our meeting.
I'm happy to send it. I'm happy to send it to all of you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep.
Liz
Okay.
would like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good.
Okay.
All right, we're moving on.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, commissioners and community
you.
members. Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is Commissioner Sherman with your discussion and possible vote on the resolution for dissolving the Murray Project Task Force.
So I think we can be relatively brief on this in that the task force itself has asked to be dissolved. It has effectively ceased operations, given the stipulation in the memorandum of understanding between the ANC and Murray that the task force would exist for a finite period, covering the time during of construction, which is now effectively completed. Murray is, as we understand, seeking the certificate of occupancy for the field project at the Episcopal Center for Children. We heard at the last ANC meeting ongoing concerns by some neighbors that are now being resolved, hopefully being addressed with respective DC government agencies. But the work of the task force itself is finished as anticipated in the MOU. And so this resolution simply affirms that reality and dissolves the task force. So with that, I will ask commissioners if they have any comments or questions and any discussion we need to have on it.
You want to move it?
Comments, questions? Members of the community, any comments or questions? All right, I think hearing none, not to be precipitous, and Mary's asking the question, what happens to concerns of neighbors? So again, as I mentioned, ongoing concerns of neighbors with respect to issues that concern the field project and as it impacts on their own properties and otherwise are being addressed by DC government agencies, the Department of Buildings, Department of Energy and Environment, Department of Transportation, and so forth. The zoning administrator is taking note of those pending matters and issues that bear on issuance of the certificate of occupancy. So that's all being handled by the city at this point. Okay. I move then that we adopt the resolution as drafted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 I don't see Corinthia. Corinthia's got her hand up. 7-0, I believe it is then. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Simmons for an update on the survey working group for the ANC Civic Corps site survey engagement.
Yes, I'll do this in 30 seconds. The survey closes on June 29th. There is a notice out to the community for a survey working group meeting on June 30th, 7 p.m. to review the results and then discuss next steps. Thanks.
Commissioners, community members, any questions on that aspect of the survey? This is just a very brief update of where we are. Okay. And in terms of the ANC mailers went out. I think I gave a pretty decent update the last time. Every household in the ANC got a mailer through the company that we used. And that was over 6,000 households. I think they hit boxes a week and a half ago or so. They've all been delivered out, so every household got a survey mailer, just to update that portion. And we have two things coming up. Commissioner Simmons mentioned the survey working group meeting, which is January 30th, but then we're also planning an ANC special meeting July 7th. And commissioners, I'm assuming that date is still good with you all. We'll be noticing that soon. that will be to start the discussion and hopefully finalize our resolution. Resolution is due to the city. We got an extension request just for the ANC because we were in the midst of getting a survey together to get our resolution submitted to the city by July 10th. So stay tuned in, to all your commissioners, our notices and emails and social media, because we will publish the link for that July 7th meeting. The registration link for June 30th is already out there. And Corinthia, you might have said it. Forgive me if you did. Can you drop that in the chat for folks just so they can
I
have it
did.
if they want? Oh, okay.
It's in
Thank
the
you so
chat.
much. Okay. Any questions, commissioners or community members on those quick updates? Okay. Seeing none, we're at commissioner announcements. Commissioners, you guys have any announcements? Commissioner Simmons?
Hi, yes.
Corinthia?
I have an announcement. Yeah, I have an announcement that on July 2nd, I will be having a meeting with residents in DC Water. This is related to the sewer lining project. So you can register for the meeting. It's in the chat. It's at 7 p.m. on July 2nd.
Okay.
And the meeting on
Commissioner
Wednesday with DDOT.
Okay. Commissioner Fennessy?
In case anybody hasn't gone by, we have a construction project going on at the field and track at Lafayette, the purpose of which is to repair the track. They hope to put in some trench drains and fix the concrete and then put in like a squishy surface. Unfortunately, the ANC wasn't properly notified and the tree protections weren't put up at first, but we're hoping to work through that. And then once we know the time frame of this project, we can push that out. We don't know at this point how long the field will be offline.
And I don't have any announcement, but just a word of safety. It's extremely hot in the Northeast in Washington, particularly this week. And just a reminder, because I've had this happen with my dog, to please, please, please watch out for your pets, especially those that walk dogs. Make sure you try to walk them early in the morning or late at night when the temperatures are cool. A good way to check the pavement temperature is to place your hands on the surface or barefoot. If it's too hot for you for 7 seconds, it's too hot for your dog's pads. And just make sure you have water. Look out for signs of dehydration. Let's very be mindful of our pets and then also people that aren't dealing with the heat very well. So just be safe out there, especially this week. Commissioner Nagy?
Thank you. Apropos DC Water, if you drive Connecticut Avenue or you are on the side streets to the west of Connecticut Avenue, you know that DC Water is massively working on sewer lining in that particular area. I must tons of inquiries. Anyway, I'm working really hard with DC Water to try to minimize the disruption and the noise and the water shutoffs, and people are totally upset because it happens on Saturdays. Know that DC Water is trying to cooperate, but it's difficult for them. It's difficult for everybody. I hear that from DC Water that the project on Connecticut Avenue in SMD 07 will be done on July 11th, and it can't come a minute too soon, I'm sure. So if you have issues with DC Water, please let me know. I'm in touch with tons of people at DC Water who can help us. Thanks.
All right.
Just a notice from my district that the Murray fields, we're just speaking of the task force, but the fields are not open to the public yet. And yet there have been lots of people on the fields. Murray has issued its advisory to folks that they're not to be on the fields yet because they're not open to the public. I have reiterated that a number of times in my newsletter, most recently last Thursday. We do, of course, live just across the street from the fields, so we do see people on the fields and unauthorized times. One of the things that we don't have to talk about this now, I just want to flag it. I just noticed that the sign that Murray put up um, with a posting of rules for being on the fields and the hours during the different times of the year when people can be on the fields is consistent with the MOU, but not with the BZA order. And these are things that we'll have to reconcile because it is the BZA order that is enforceable, not the MOU. So there's some things that we'll have to work out. And I think the one thing we will have to come back and talk about is how Murray will be ensuring security for the field and monitoring use of the field during after hours so that it doesn't become an issue where there is an ongoing circumstance of people on the fields when they're not supposed to be there. Anyway, that's something that's just a plant for future conversation. But I just want to reiterate that folks are not supposed to be on the fields right now. And also one other little thing, forget about the Murray fields, but any place in the city, we talked about this when we were doing our piece, our resolution on artificial turf across the city and in our own ANC. Artificial turf fields are 35 to 55 degrees hotter than the ambient air temperature. So if it is 85 degrees, they'll be 120 degrees or hotter. If they're 95, they'll be 130 degrees or hotter. And so for people who are coaches and parents need to be concerned about this, DC has very vague guidelines on use of artificial turf fields during very hot weather. Montgomery County is much more specific. So this is also something I think we want to come back to in due course because they can get incredibly hot.
Okay. All right. Commission business, treasurer's report, Commissioner Simmons. Do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report today, but if you have an outstanding check with the ANC, please cash it and receipts for the forms. We should be all good.
Yeah, I owe you. I'm sorry. I owe you the receipt for WP forms.
WP forms, yes.
Yeah, I'll try to get that for you as soon as possible. I know I've been promising it.
Yes, the end of the quarter is 6:30, so I need to have everything in line with
by then,
for our next quarterly report.
Okay, no problem. And ANC resolution portal, we can discuss that offline if you want, but I don't know if there's anyone that wants to volunteer to do that. If we haven't done it for this year, that means we have a lot of resolutions to add to the portal. And this is not our website, it's the district's portal that captures supposedly all ANC resolutions. And when we do a resolution that we're like, say, for a notice of intent or something where we're supposed to get a response to the city, it goes through there. The city can upload its documents and its response in that portal as well. So it is important that we have our resolutions up there. But if anyone wants to volunteer, last person that did it was Commissioner Ferguson. Just let us know on email, commissioners. We all are doing a lot, but if you could spare to help and just upload those resolutions for us, that would be great. And then possible items for July 14th, which is our next regular meeting. Continued update on the Civic Corps disposition presentation. I'm trying to get Chevy Chase Main Street to do a presentation. Laura, you have a notice of intent coming up on the installation of curb extension and sidewalk at 32nd and Tennyson. And then vote on the historic Chevy Chase DC grant application. And Commissioner Sherman, you had a...
I've got a BZA issue on.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. What's the date? Do you know what date you want it?
Yeah, it'd be the second meeting in July.
Okay, got it.
For this meeting coming up next on the 14th, I believe it is of July, please reserve a spot for the Department of Buildings zoning administrator to come back and tell us how they have resolved these various neighbor concerns. They have offered to do that. DOB has offered to come and speak to the ANC at our first meeting in July.
Okay. And what is the exact topic on that?
That is
What would you title it?
resolution of neighbor complaints regarding the Murray Fields.
Oh, okay, got it. All right. Anything else, commissioners, for July 14th that I've left off that you might have told me that I don't have? If you can't think of it right now, just shoot me an email and I'll do the same thing. I'll get the agenda started on, hopefully that worked well for everyone. I think it helped me a lot. I'll put it on the same document and send you guys a link and you can look at it as we go and have it in advance.
That was constructive. Thank you. And also, Lisa, the very issue of these stanchions, these flexi posts at Nebraska and Utah, that's kind of blown up here in the last 24, 48 hours. That's likely to gain momentum. So we might want to put a placeholder down for this to talk about it. I would just emphasize to everybody that we, of course, are going to hear from people who are concerned about this in the first instance. There are members of folks in the community who've already reached out to me that are appreciative of having them. So I just want to be careful about this as we kind of weigh community concerns, that we hear all voices on this.
Okay, sounds good. Commissioner Simmons?
At our next meetings, can we bring the timer back?
Oh, so I'll update you on that. The timer, I can try to bring it back, but I got notice the timer cost and it was only for so many meetings. So we probably just need to pay for it and I need to figure that out. But that's why it went away. Yes. Okay, thank you everyone. We are adjourned at 9:22.
What? Hello.
Oh, Carol?
Hi. Can I just sneak in the idea that we are adjourning at 9:22 and we're adjourning early. So I'm not quite sure why we need a timer. We were scheduled to adjourn at 9:30 and we're adjourning at 9:22. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. I appreciate any time we adjourn early. But yes, you're correct. We are early tonight. Great meeting everyone. And with that, we are adjourned. And let me ask, we're adjourned now, but did you guys record?
I'm going to stop the recording now.